Action Film Autopsy.
I love that opening. I love it so much. I just every single time I get involved in it proves my point that if you're seeing a good martial art scene, you can watch it over and over and over and see new things each time. In fact, watching this again and comparing Sammo and Jackie and all these other guys to Arnold and Sly and Chuck, I'm sort of going, well, maybe I'd like to take one of the movies that I will be talking about tonight and also one of the movies we talked about last time, which was 100 Yards, and put a clip from that in, because those are short, fast little scenes that are just like the optimum kung fu in the last 20 years. So let's talk to Fat Samurai Guy about changing up that opening.
Yeah, it's good Samurai to get to work there a little bit, get back in the horse.
Well, the thing is, he's been on the Amazon horse for the last month, and the fact that he survived that means that he has good kung fu. But yeah,
right.
So next week, of course, we'll be doing with Frank Jang the best and worst. I'll be doing the worst as well as the best. Frank is only doing the best, or what he considers the best action scenes of the year, and that's finally backed with Fat because the Amazon Christmas season is over. So he's got the time. He can recuperate a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully he won't get COVID or whatever. But anyway, we're back here again. Always a pleasure with you. And,
I appreciate it. I'm DJ Nubis, of course, filling in for Fat Samurai Guy for Action Film Autopsy. We were on episode 33, so I've been having a blast with Mr. Kung Fu Santa here, going through the films and TV series that he's seen, and is kind of give us a little bit of a review about what's going on with them, how good they are, how bad they are. He's always going to give it to you straightforward, which I really love. That's the way it works. And I am going to turn it over to you, sir, because we are going to get into your stuff.
Well, first of all, to everybody, happy holidays. We got a bunch of holidays today. We had a holiday yesterday. We'll be having a holiday a little bit long. So it is, as Kung Fu Santa always says, happy ho ho holidays.
Ho ho ho.
And I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful Christmas Eve. And you're having a wonderful Kwanzaa now and having a wonderful Hanukkah now and getting wonderful stuff. Because I have to say, this season, again, has reminded me what's so special about this time of year. Everybody getting together, giving and getting gifts, sharing and all this stuff. And this month of action films is also in the Christmas spirit. And I knew that because basically, since we've done so many of these now, this month, the whole episode is turned on its head, because usually we start with Disney with the theatrical. We start with Hi-Yah, we end with theatrical. This time we're turning it over. I mean, I was going to wear my Kung Fu Santa shirt tonight, but then I looked at the best movies we're doing, and I had to wear my Hi-Yah shirt, because we've got two of the guys who we'll be talking about it right on the shirt, and we're saving it for the end. But we're going to start with the channel that is really solidifying and focusing what is wrong with this modern world of too much entertainment. And we're starting with Disney Plus, specifically Disney Pixar's Dream Productions. Now, from the world of Inside Out. Now, if I had to make a bet, I would bet that this was another leftover from the Bob Chapek era at Disney, because right now it's Bob Iger. Bob Iger was before, and he did a lot of really, really great stuff. Then he finally said, I'm going to finally retire. I'm in my 70s. And he got Bob Chapek, and Chapek screwed the pooch. I can't help but feel that he did it on purpose, and that he's being paid by all sorts of people to sabotage Disney. Because all the other studios, if you look at what the output and the success and the money that's coming into all the Hollywood studios, you'll see that Disney is at the top, and all the others are underneath Disney. And knowing how Hollywood works, as a very famous incognito guy told me, all the truisms about Hollywood when I first started working there in 1985. And he said, you'll find, at least I've found, and you'll probably find, that 75% of all the producers and all the executives are venal backstabbers. And the other 25% are geniuses. But still, the 75 to 25 is bad. And that explains a lot. And you'll see on this episode clear evidence of this. There's so much entertainment and so much streaming. And you know, of course, Amazon is getting it from all over the world, that it's getting harder and harder for these guys to hide it, to hide the fact that they're openly sabotaging things. But here's a good example. Dream Productions, which is from the world of Inside Out. It reminds me when I first saw Inside Out, which I still think is one of the great animations, and I also think that Inside Out 2 is one of the great animations. I was invited to a pre-premiere screening at the Museum of the Moving Image in Queens, New York, with both directors of Inside Out in attendance. We were going to be the first people outside of the studio system to see the movie at this wonderful Museum of the Moving Image. And it was one of my great unforgettable film going experiences. First of all, the Museum of the Moving Image, as you might imagine, has a wonderful theater, has a beautiful screening area, great sound, great picture, everything perfect. And it was just full. It was a great movie. And so then what happened is when Chapek came in and the strikes hit and COVID hit, he started ordering all sorts of sequels and spin-offs, but he didn't care how they were. He didn't care. I mean, he rushed them. He just, basically his attitude seemed to be just get them done. So that's why I think this Dream Productions, which was a good idea, but it seems like a leftover because it doesn't screw the pooch. It isn't terrible. The problem is, and this is the reason, something I've also talked about in the past, the reason why most producers of slasher movies don't want them to be really good, because they want to be able to, because they know they have a ready-made audience who will see whatever they give them. So don't make it good, because then you'll be creating an audience that might expect it to be good in the future. So they try to make these really lousy slasher movies, so people will be satisfied and they'll just keep feeding it to them, and they don't have to get big stars, and the budget's low, and they know they'll always make money. So the problem with Inside Out and Inside Out 2 is it was inspired. And the best Pixar and Disney and Marvel movies are inspired. And how do you know you're inspired? Because you feel something. In other words, when the end of Avengers Endgame, I defy anybody in that audience, and I saw it 4 times with 4 different audiences in 4 different places to make sure that that my estimation was correct. I defy you to find anybody in that theater who went, yeah, it was okay. Most of the time when you go to movies, again, 75% of the time in general, you go, oh, that was all right. It's fine. It's okay.
I mean, you still have people now just saying they should just stopped at Endgame. They should have just stopped.
No, I disagree with that.
Well, so do I on some level, but I just hear it a lot.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done what they did afterwards. In other words, they had a problem that they couldn't go any further higher up. And so then they went bigger in terms of the mega universe.
Expansion.
So they brought in gods, and they should have known, and this is one of the main points that I'm going to be making this episode. They should have known that if they're going to do the mega universe or the multiverse and gods, there is no place to go. The great thing about the Avengers is that over 10 years and 20 movies or whatever, it built and built and built and built and built.
Yeah.
And when they start with the Eternals, I mean, they broke every one of their rules. The whole idea was not to go bigger. The whole idea was to go smaller, not Ant-Man smaller, but smaller in terms of focus. In other words, the Avengers had everybody. So what you needed to do, I felt, and they should have known.
Kind of like a reset.
It's sort of like a reset, but reset might be, if they could pull off the reset, excellent. Otherwise, take a moment And if I watch the movie again, I can find the moment. Take one character and show what happened after the end of the movie and the devastation that it caused. And they sort of introduced that at the beginning of Avengers Endgame, showing you what happened with the snap. But they should have continued, and they should have taken a minor one of the, find the smallest character in that movie and build the movie around that supra or superhero character, one who you hardly notice, and then start building again. Start small, build up. But anyway, we get on to. So what happens, the point I was making is that if you're going to follow that, you need to be re-inspired. You have to keep inspiring. You have to keep emotion. You have to keep making your audience feel things. And Dream Productions, which was a really cool idea, but I don't think they realized what they put themselves into, because if you know Inside Out, Dream Productions is supposedly the people who produce the Riley's Dreams, the little girl who's the main character in Inside Out. These are the people who create her dreams, who produce her dreams. So that's a clever idea. In other words, not only are they showing you we're entering the dream world, but also they're able to do a satire of Hollywood, because this is a production house. And so they introduce characters immediately who are clearly obvious doppelgangers for people who are in the film industry. But then I think they realized the problem, which was they're also a studio. So if they're going to satirize Hollywood, they can't do it as savagely as they perhaps should. So unfortunately, they created a leading character who I didn't find likable or particularly believable. And also and she was the character, the main character, she was soft. And they might have created this character to be semi-based on Kathleen Kennedy, who is the Disney producer that a lot of fans have problems with. But then again, they couldn't be vicious about it because she's one of their bosses.
Don't make it obvious.
Yes. And then when I was doing research on Dream Productions, I found out that the writer, the main brain behind it, is a gentleman named Mike Jones is the writer. And he was also the writer of, big surprise, Soul, which was that After Death movie. And also Luca. And the one thing that Soul and Luca, Soul especially, Soul, like Dream Productions, is a big subject. And he did not approach it in an inspired manner. My biggest problem with Soul is that they go to the afterlife and it's only people. And we live in a universe, in a world where we are the wild minority of things that pass away. Wild minority. But here it's all about humans. And so it's uninspired. There's nothing in that movie that I remember that I went, oh, that's clever, that's smart. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But there was nothing in that movie. It was all superficial. That's the problem with Dream. However, they were lucky. They'd only did 4 episodes. And I don't think it's going to carry on. But and so Dream Production shows one of the problems is that if you create an inspired source, you can't do other things, spin-off things until you're inspired. And the other thing that it shows, which we'll get into more, is that so many of the younger writers working in Hollywood and other places, wherever they're producing entertainment, they have completely lost hold of, they're great at setups, they're lousy at payoffs. Yeah. And the thing that really makes something work is the payoff. In other words, I call it the Lost syndrome, because the show Lost had all these questions that were fascinating and kept you involved. And at the end, no satisfying answers.
Yeah.
You have to nail the landing. If you're going to have a great takeoff, you've got to nail the landing. And Disney Plus recently, and again, I'm hoping that all the Disney Plus that isn't nailing the landing are the Chapek fallouts. Like and last month, I think Agatha All Along, bait and switch, not satisfying. And it was another one recently where, The Acolyte. Oh my God, that's on my worst list in next week's show with Fat Samurai. I mean, so not nail the landing. It was just, and there was another one with again. I was reviewing it with 2 episodes left and didn't nail the landing. So be that as it may. So now let's move on to other things, other Disney Plus series that have started but haven't finished yet. So I'm hoping that they nail the landing. What do you have? What do you have up next for me?
I have this one, the Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew. I think they've got 4 episodes, and I can't remember how many episodes it is in total, but I can say so far so good. When it started, I was worried because it was a clear, obvious knockoff of Stranger Things and the Goonies.
Yeah.
Very, very clear, very obvious. But I said, but then again, the people who did Skeleton Crew and are doing Skeleton Crew, Christopher Ford and John Watts, did the great Spider-Man movies of the last couple of years, Spider-Man Homecoming. And so they went into it saying, this is Stranger Things. This is, because I had to remind myself, because I find myself and other people have forgotten that Star Wars started as a wild knockoff. Star Wars was never original. Star Wars was always the only reason George Lucas did Star Wars is he couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon. King Features wouldn't sell him the rights to Flash Gordon, so he created his own. But there's so much in the original Star Wars movies that are obvious knockoffs from Dune and Little Fuzzy and all these other things because that's what he did. So, I'm sitting there going, oh, they're copying from Stranger Things. I'm going, well, this is Star Wars. Of course they
Now,
are.
when you say Stranger Things, are we talking like
The Netflix one.
Yeah, but I mean, is it like nostalgia, or what is it exactly that you would compare?
Goonies, yeah. I mean, the group of kids, it's a bunch of kids having an adventure.
Okay.
And the group of kids are very reminiscent and very recognizable as archetypes that they also use in Stranger Things and the Goonies.
Gotcha.
Because I think both Ford and Watts have said, we love the Goonies. This is kind of like our sequel to the Goonies, or our, variation on the Goonies. And it gets better every episode gets better. And you can tell, because when I'm teaching cinema, and I think I've said this before on this show, I always give my class the same assignment. Give me your opening scene. I don't care if it's 10 seconds. I don't care if it's 10 minutes. I don't care if it's 10 hours. Give me your opening scene. And because I want to see what you're doing. I want to know that I'm in good hands as soon as your movie starts. And Skeleton Crew, every episode, I'm in good hands. I'm in good hands. Every episode is a little different. And it's got an ongoing mystery. It's involving. I mean, I'm not feeling things like, I'm not wanting to cry. I do want to laugh, and I'm enjoying it. I'm watching it. I know that it's good because I do not want to fast forward at any second. I want to watch every moment and I also want to watch the YouTube follow-ups, which tell you all the things that you may have missed.
Oh, wow.
Because every episode of Skeleton Crew, one of those shows comes up, and here's the 300 things you may have missed in this 1.5 hour episode. So yeah, they're very smart, but they're more than smart. They're also clever. They're also inventive. I'm trying to think of other words, because we'll be getting to other shows in this episode where they're smart, but maybe not insightful. Here, these guys really seem to know what they're doing. So I'm looking forward to it. And, I'm crossed fingers and praying, nail the landing.
Well, so far, the rumors because I haven't seen it at all, but people have been pretty high on this particular Star Wars piece. So
it's really good. These guys know what they're doing. And also they know how to write. I mean, if there's one thing that the Spider-Man trilogy that they did, the only good Marvel thing they did for Sony, Spider-Man Homecoming is the best thing since Avengers Endgame. they know how to nail the landing. So
Yeah.
let's see if they do it here too. So the next one is, what if we were doing what if next? I wonder, what if? I enjoy what if. I didn't when the comic book originally came out, and we'll be getting more into this a little later too, my history of reading comic books and discovering comic books. When the What If comic book came out, that was before, I think that was before I went to work for comics. And my first major job was at a comic book company, and we'll get into that too. But when What If came out, I went, oh, because when I first went to the Racebrook Pharmacy, and then I saw these comic books and was like, wow, these are great. And I picked up and I started reading Superman and all the Superman universe stuff. But at that period of history, I mean, this was late 1960s. And by then, you know, of course, they've been doing Superman since what, the 30s and 40s or something. And
Yeah.
so they had run out of stories. And so virtually every story I read in all of the Superman comics were either what were called red kryptonite stories or imaginary stories, which were basically their version of What If.
Hmm.
And the red kryptonite stories is, if you don't know, green kryptonite can kill Superman. Red kryptonite just does strange things to him. So, you know, suddenly Superman will be doing some, you know, having lots of sex with Lois or whatever. And it turns out that he'd been exposed to red kryptonite and made him a sex machine or whatever. But again, none of them had any validity outside the end of the story. Once the end of the story happened, if it's an imaginary story, we go back to square one. And if it's red kryptonite, we go back to square one. And you know, I just got tired of that. So when Marvel put out What If, I sort of went, oh shoot, I don't want imaginary stuff. I want the actual story. But now that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done so well, I don't mind the what ifs. And also the animation is so good. The animation is really interesting, and it shows you how advanced. I mean, I am now waiting. I don't know if any of you guys go onto DeviantArt and you can see, or TikTok, and you see what they can do now with AI assisted artwork, making it hyper realistic. I am waiting for that. I want an entire animated movie of that hyper realism. I mean, because there's two people so far on TikTok I see who take the Disney animated characters and turn them into AI animated characters, and it's like every time I see it, I go, "Oh my gosh, I want to see that! I want to see Beauty and the Beast done that way. Oh my gosh, boy, do I!" Because the women are so beautiful and the men are so handsome and the environment is so gloriously. So it's like, oh, AI is our enemy, and I'm going, I don't care. You know, you can still do great animated movies, but do them in AI too, or AI assisted, to get that look. Oh, I want everything that way. Anyways, so What If is still pretty good. I'm enjoying it because they're having a lot of fun. They've already said this is their final series of What Ifs. And so they're having fun. So therefore, I'm having fun. And the first episode was kind of like, basically, they said it was one thing, but it was actually, what if all the Marvel superheroes were Transformers? But they didn't call it that because I don't think they got the rights to the Transformers. So they made it the Hulk versus whatever. And of course, I wrote the Hulk novel for Marvel. So and also I was on the Hulk television show. I did a little consulting for them and was friends with all those. I was the Hulk guy for a while. So I enjoyed the Hulk episode, but at the same time I'm going, it's not really the Hulk episode, but the second one, oh, I love. What if Agatha went to Hollywood? And so she got the Camille Nanjiani Eternals character, who became a Bollywood star in that movie. And so she gets him to Hollywood, and they're back in the 30s and 40s in the glory days of the Hollywood movie musical. And so in comes the Bollywood guy into the musical, and they do this amazing musical fight scene number. And I've ever since, you know, RRR on Amazon and all the Bollywood stuff on Amazon, I've been waiting for someone to do a fight scene as a musical number. Not to, they have great fights and they have great musical numbers. Do them both. And in this episode, they did it. And I'm just like, I've been watching that scene over and over again. Again, is maybe we can get that little clip at the beginning of the show too, so I can watch it every time. Just great. And then what was the I'm blanking on the episode, but they had a Howard the Duck episode.
Oh wow!
They had a full Howard the Duck episode. And it was a little, I was a little disappointed that they had all sorts of amazing things happening that they don't explain. But that ties into my main theme, because our next thing, because again, what I'm going to say is, what if does not have to nail the landing? They don't have to, because they're all
now,
separate.
Do you like
things.
it more as an animation, or would you like prefer this stuff to kind of be like live actors?
Last night, I realized why they couldn't do that, because it would cost too much, number one, and the stuff they do in animation, they can't really
replicate
in live action without spending a billion, zillion, gazillion. And so again, once they, I understand why they don't want to do it, because they figure if it gets too good, and it will, then actors will be out of work, because they won't need the actors. They won't need to spend $25 million for Robert Downey Jr. because they can replicate him in AI. I understand that. But at the same time, as an audience member, I still would love to see, if you're going to do it, if you do it live action, do it, trust your audience enough to know that if you touch their hearts, it doesn't matter how glorious it looks. And you can't do that with AI. AI cannot touch your heart. They can make everything look very pretty, but they can't go that extra mention. But that's the problem. 75% bad people, 25% brilliant people. But Hollywood's always been that. But let's jump into our next thing, because it has the same issue, and it has for the last year, which is the new Christmas episode of Doctor Who. I love Doctor Who. By the way, that's the wrong title. They keep on. They originally was Joy to the World, then it became Joy to the Worlds, which makes more sense for the episode. But then, when it showed up last night in the premiere, it was back to Joy to the World, singular. Since they got Nagudi Gatwa, who's playing the 15th Doctor, or is he the 16th? They've screwed up now with replicating a couple of them with David Tennant twice, but they screwed the pooch with the female Doctor. Very bad writing for the female Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, who I've met and loved, and she's a great actress, and she was a great Doctor, but the producer and the writers just completely screwed her under and over. So Nagudi Gatwa, they got Russell T Davies back, who was the one who resurrected the Doctor Who character 10 years ago. And so I thought, okay, great, Doctor Who will be back in good hands with good writers. And he also brought back Stephen Moffat, who was another producer of the David Tennant years. And I said, okay, so this will be really good. But then I discovered that Russell T Davies is portraying the new Doctor as a manic depressive, which is very annoying to me. And also, except for like 2 episodes of the first season of Nagudi Gatwa, none of the episodes nailed the landing. In fact, Russell T Davies seemed to be proud of the fact that he's not explaining shit to you. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and if you don't like it, screw you. And so that makes the audience, well, specifically me, because I can't speak for the rest of the audience, I can only speak for myself. And so what I say to him is, screw you. But I've been watching Doctor Who since it first came to America, so I'm going to continue watching Doctor Who. But I want you to stop screwing this over. But I also understand that he's been writing for a very long time. So has Stephen Moffat, been writing for a very long time. So they must be very happy that they now can do whatever they want without explaining, without nailing the landing. And so they sort of went, yeah, you can tell that we know what we're doing, and we're purposely not nailing the landing. Well, thanks, guys. That's very helpful. I understand you're tired, and I understand that Doctor Who has an audience. Unfortunately, That audience is the English audience, and there's only about 5 million of them. And that's not going to satisfy Disney Plus because they're pumping money into this thing. The episode yesterday, Joy to the World, it's the best Doctor Who has ever looked in terms of technical and sets and special effects and all the rest of it. But again, and it's all over the place, but there are some nice emotional moments. It's one of the better episodes that they've done, but it's not nailed. It's not nailed down. It's still a little loose. It's kind of like the way watching Doctor Who now is like sort of going, wait a minute. Because, you see it and you see what they were trying to do, and then you think about it and nothing's adding up. And so why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that more? Why didn't you do that more? And they got the second season is already finished. They already wrote it. They already produced it. So I'm really worried. But, hey, it's Doctor Who. It's been around for 60 years.
Who's your favorite Doctor Who?
They're all my favorites.
All of them?
Yeah, I'm not an or guy. I'm an and guy. People have asked me this before, and I think about every single doctor. All the doctors are great. The writing hasn't always been great.
Right.
But the concept of Doctor Who is that he changes. So once they introduce that, I look back at each of them, and they're all different. The other issue I have with the Goody Cut, and it's not my issue. They did it well last night. The other thing that he did during his entire season, because he's a manic depressive, even if they're not admitting it or realizing it, he cries a lot. He cried in virtually every episode of his first season, of the first 8 or 10 episodes. He cried in every one. And I told Jackie Chan this because Jackie Chan was trying to prove to his audience that he could act, and he did it by crying at every opportunity he had in The Accidental Spy. In The Accidental Spy, he cried. Well, it was one of those movies, but I was at the premiere with him and Run Run Shaw. That's how I got to meet Run Run Shaw. And I told Jackie, because like many people in the martial art and kung fu arena, they know I will tell them the truth as I see it. They know that I will tell them what I actually think, not, oh, you were great, oh, it's great. No, I will always, and he said, how was my acting? I said, your acting's fine, but the whole point here is the way you get the audience to cry is for you to cry only once, that you keep fighting it. You don't just cry. I said, watch $1 Million Baby, which was the Clint Eastwood movie, where Clint Eastwood cries at the end. He doesn't cry all throughout. So last night's episode, A Joy to the World of Doctor Who, he cries 3 times. 3 times. But what I liked about it is that he has now made it part of his personality, because he's crying, but he doesn't. The only way you know he's crying is that the tear comes out. He said he doesn't. There was one scene where he's smiling, has a huge smile on his face. He's overjoyed, but he's still crying. And I'm going, well, that's good acting. Because I sort of went, this is the 3rd time you're crying. I see what you're doing. You're making it part of your characterization and your personality. You are free. He's the most pan everything Doctor Who in history. Yeah. So by making his emotions be just part of his, like breathing, he cries the way he breathes, and I just sort of, all right, you're cool with me, baby. So I'll keep watching. So that was the Christmas special. So now we have to wait till next year for the new episodes. But I will be looking forward to it. And I'll be looking forward to the rest of Skeleton Crew and What If, which we'll talk about next month for the finale. Find out if they've nailed the landing.
Yeah.
Now we move on to not finished thing. Well, now we move on to basically, what is it? Warner Brothers, Max, whatever. What do you have up first? You have Creature Commandos first? Yeah.
Yep.
Creature Commando is not done yet, but I've seen enough to know that they, again, do not have to nail the landing, because what Creature Commandos is James Gunn telling you in no uncertain terms, telling everybody, you think you know DC Comics? Rick, yeah, you're older than I am, Rick, and you started reading DC Comics before I did. But I got news for you, Rick. I know more about them than you do. And my attitude
why
is,
does cat in the back look like Bill the Cat? Do you remember that comic?
sure, of course I remember.
Yeah.
But everything is derivative of everything else.
Yeah.
He also looks a lot like Wolverine, Dead Dog, Dogpool. Also looks
Dogpool.
like Dogpool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything. I mean, again, I started working in comics in 1973, and with all the companies, and everybody was doing variations. I mean, we had a character at Atlas Comics called the Brute, which was the Blue Hulk. It's like, yeah, it's all spent. But in any case, Creature Commandos is just, and there's a reason the opening credits has an animation of James Gunn typing. I mean, he's one of these guys like Stephen Bochco who has his own. He has become his biggest character, and that's smart. He's taking all the credit, but he can handle it. And so Creature Commandos is him going, I know more about it. Trust me. Put yourself in my hands. And so it's all very interesting. And again, every episode of Creature Commandos is better by going onto YouTube immediately after. And I'll say, go to Screen Crush, go to New Rockstars, and see their compilations. If you guys did that kind of thing, I'd say go. But man, they work hard to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And also another nice thing about Creature Commandos is it gets better each episode. The more you get to know the characters, and also if you know the characters like the back of your hand, or you don't know the characters at all, they're equally watchable. Every episode is equally watchable, no matter how much
I'm not
you
familiar
know
with
or
any of
don't know.
those. So what exactly is the premise of this series?
It's the Creature Commandos was a series of comic books, which was basically the Suicide Squad, but with monsters. It was because Suicide Squad was humanoids, and basically the person who ran the Suicide Squad into the dirt and got them all killed, she wanted to create another Suicide Squad, and the bosses above her said, no way, we're going to let you kill more humans. And she said, okay, I'll make it all monsters. And that's what the Creature Commandos are.
Okay.
So James and the Creature Commando writers, the comic guys, were able to tell the wonderful stories of these creatures, and a lot of backstory, because they're all basically recognizable, especially Bride of Frankenstein. Bride of Frankenstein, just right there. So they're really good episodes, but again, I don't think they have to nail the landing. I think they just have to set up the runway, because basically they're a setup for Superman and the oncoming James Gunn DC universe.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, everybody's seen the trailer, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what did you think of the trailer?
So DC's been really hit or miss with me over the years, aside from Nolan's trilogy, but
and the Christopher Reeve Superman.
The funny thing is, and I think a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me a little bit, but I always felt that Henry Cavill looked the part.
Of course he did.
I just didn't really care for him as Superman. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because he was written that way.
No, I do know why. Yeah, you see, he was sabotaged. DC is famous. Martin Campbell makes the best James Bond movies in the history. They give him the Green Lantern, and it is a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And then again, I know people who worked for Warner's at that time. I mean, I was lucky. I was on the set of Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman, and Richard Donner for a month. I was on that set for a month. I saw what was happening to poor Richard Donner. Richard Donner, the reason that I realized this today, the reason that I said, I didn't pal around. I couldn't call myself a friend of Christopher Reeve. I could say that I was friendly with him. And then I realized why. Because I didn't pal around with Christopher Reeve outside of the Superman set. In other words, he invited me to his apartment in New York the day before Superman premiered, but I didn't see him after that. But I remembered that we were actual friends at Pinewood Studios, and the reason because he was under siege, because he was doing an acting technique that made everybody else on the set pissed, because he was doing he was trying to stay in character the whole time. So whenever he wasn't on set, he didn't want to hang around with the rest of the guys because they were all kind of pissed at him. But I was the reporter from Starlog, and I
Yeah.
wanted to hear what he had to say. I realized almost immediately that there was no question I could ask Christopher Reeve that he hadn't already asked himself and also come up with the answer. So whatever I said to him, he would just immediately come back with a really well thought out answer. Really well thought. I'm going, oh, this is great stuff. This is great stuff. And so we did actually pal around on the set because, you know, even when we finished the interview, I mean, we would have lunch, the best lunches in England, the best food in England at that time was at the Pinewood Studios. And it was like £6, you know, at that point, $10. And, you know, Christopher Lee would be sitting over there and Gene Hackman would be over there. And who else did I see there? There was all sorts of amazing actors in that, because everything that was happening in the studio, everybody came to all the stars came to the commissary.
Yeah.
So in any case, now we go back to the beginnings. When I was an abused child, I was able to find at the Racebrook Pharmacy the comics, and they were part of my escape. And Superman, of course, I idolized Superman because he was super. And if only I were super, I wouldn't have to, you know, I could do things about my situation. And so, but also, if you look at the artwork from that time, all the artists of Superman made him look really happy to be Superman. Really happy to be Superman. All the Kurt Swan and all these other guys. Kurt Swan drew, and my then wife, a caricature of Superman for us, which I treasured. And then, you know, for one reason or another, it's elsewhere now in a warehouse. But it was Superman smiling. And Christopher Reeve, Superman smiling. So that was I looked at Superman and said the same thing I said about James Bond. There's a man who knows how to take care of himself. Because remember, Sean Connery, and Roger Moore for that matter, they're smilers. It wasn't until Daniel Craig that it was suddenly like everything was miserable.
Well, yeah, to answer your question is like, so I did like the trailer, but there's a lot that I'm not familiar with. So I don't know the actor very well who's taken over the reins. He's tall as hell though. Yeah. And I didn't recognize the dog at all. Like, I don't know what that's
I know Crypto very well. Crypto's the super dog. The
only thing I would say of the teaser itself was it seemed like there's a lot going on in it, like a whole lot.
James Gunn's doing the whole history of Superman.
Okay.
I mean, up until the modern day, and my issue, given everything that I said about Superman smiling, can you figure out what I was concerned about in the trailer?
Not smiling.
There's not a single moment that anybody smiles.
Yeah.
No one smiles. All of this stuff, and there's so many people. There are 3 villains. There are all these other characters in it. And everybody is like, life sucks. Life stinks. It had an overall feeling of misery. And I'm just like going, and you know, he starts the whole trailer with bang, Superman bleeds. And I sort of,
the first thing I thought too.
Yeah, and I went, great. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Crypto was cool. It's nice to see Crypto. Also, the way they did that special effect and all the rest of it. But then the other thing that concerns me is not only does no one smile, but when Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern, played by the wonderful actor who I'm blanking on the name because I'm an old man now, at least he has character. There's the scene that really concerned me was the scene at the Smallville ranch, the family ranch, where Clark Kent is, you know, hugging his father. Go back to the trailer and look at the actor's expression.
Blank.
Blank. And I'm going, uh-oh. Because I remember that happening with the live action Mulan. I remember whenever, and if you're a regular watcher of the Action Film Autopsy, when you guys put up the poster and their DOA, and I think we have a DOA poster coming up, I always point it out and say, that's not a good sign. And the fact he's doing the scene where he's tenderly holding his father and helping his father, and his face is blank. I'm having flashbacks of George Lazenby taking over for Sean Connery again. A callow, hollow. No, he's not. This new actor is not callow, but he does seem to be hollow, and that concerns me. So that's my concern about Superman. Let's move on. Let's go to Amazon. Not Amazon. What am I talking about?
Netflix.
Let's go to Netflix. Yay. You say Carry On to me. You know what I think? Carry On Sergeant. Carry On Nurses. I think of the British comedy series, the Carry On movies. And so when I saw why they had to put on the dash in there, because they, Carry On Terrorists, another great British comedy. Carry On Killers, whatever. This is a fascinating movie to me because it's directed by Jean-Colette Serra, who directed Black Adam, Jungle Cruise. He's directed a couple of rock movies. He's about to do Jungle Cruise 2. And he also did a bunch of latter-day Liam Neeson movies that weren't up to the level of Taken. But still, I mean, they were professionally done. I can't say that Black Adam and Jungle Cruise were perfect. I mean, it probably wasn't the director's fault, because when you're working with The Rock is the boss. Exactly. And I mean, that's what happened with the latest Rock movie. But be that as it may, but still, he's not working with The Rock here. He's not working with Liam Neeson.
He's probably saying, "Thank God."
Yeah, he says, now I can direct the way I want to, and the actor will have to listen to me.
Yeah,
and he does a crackerjack job. It's really good direction, and I was fascinated, and I really believe that the director probably wrote it mostly too, because the screenwriter, get a load of this guy's name, T.J. Fixman. His last name is actually Fixman. And I'm going, that has to be a fake name. That's what he does, when he gets his jobs. Could you rewrite this? Yes, Fixman will be working. It's the T.J. Fixman. And the reason why I think that, number one, that may not be his actual name, is because the last thing T.J. Fixman worked on, or is credited for, was in 2016, 8 years ago.
Wow.
So he was probably doing a lot of fixing of other movies under his real name, whatever it may or may not be. But Carry On it also reminded me of the days when I would go to Saturday matinees and see a crackerjack little. This is not a great movie. It's not an A+, but it's a B movie. It's a literal B movie. There are parts of it that don't make complete sense, but it keeps me watching. It keeps me moving. And the leading actor is is somebody who everybody's working together to make a crackerjack, and it's good because of the villain, because he could have been the star of the movie too. He's taking this as a villain role, and there's great little interplay.
That's supposed to be Bateman's role.
Yeah, Jason Bateman is the villain, the terrorist. And I'm saying,
now, is this supposed to be kind of like a Passenger 57 film? Is it sort of like that? Or? No, nothing like it. Okay.
It's not. Well, it's not nothing like it, but it's not a lot like it. I mean, it is a terrorist situation. There are movies like this. Come on, people. Think of it. And basically, it's the. I'm blanking on the movie, but there is a recent movie that's very much like this. The terrorist gets in touch with the TSA agent and says, "Let my bag go on board, or we'll shoot we'll shoot your girlfriend." And so then it becomes a chess game, where he's trying to save his girlfriend, but he's also trying to stop the plot. And I can also say another thing that I'm very happy about this movie: they nailed the landing. I was very happy with the landing.
That's good.
I don't like slasher movies where the slasher guy wins at the end. I do not like those. So, we know who wins at the end of this. And also, another thing I like about it is they do a tiny, usually most of these movies end with a very clear, there's going to be a sequel. It's all sequel baiting at the end. They don't do that. There's a little hint that we may carry on, but if we never do, it's still okay.
That's the best way to do it. This way, you just leave a little crack in case you want to, but if not, then you can just leave it as
And
is.
it's the best way of doing the crack. Spoiler alert, everybody. You're used to, there'll be spoilers. There'll be spoilers. The reason they have a reason that for the ending is that our hero wins, survives, and is promoted. So the next movie could be him in his new position.
Yep.
So I sort of went, thank you guys. You made a satisfying entertainment with good action. Let's see. I have no, I didn't find there's not the fights are standard, fighting, but because the characters are motivated, you come to know them. They fight in character. Happily at the end, they don't fight exactly the same. That one's clearly a hero, one's clearly a villain. So that's really cool. Then, meanwhile, also on Netflix, Black Doves, another assassination movie with black in the title, with a female lead. Now, I've seen a bunch of these movies on Netflix and other places, and I have not been wildly enamored of any of them. And I am wildly enamored of this, but not because of the guns.
Yeah.
Because while Ben Winshaw back there, who I will always know as Q, he played Q in the Daniel Craig, James Bond movies. I believe you can fire that gun. But Kira, you know as well as I do that if you fired that gun, your arm would break. Because again, all the female heroes in these movies are these rail thin, anorexic stars.
Anorexic, yeah.
Well, they're all these super thin, and it's again they don't, and she's holding the gun the wrong way, but then again that's okay because it's irrelevant ultimately. I understand why you guys felt the need to put guns on the poster. You did not have to. You also didn't need to use black doves either. But what makes this work, which was amazing to me, and this is another example where I think what's happening at Amazon now, because Amazon used to hire people and let them do what they want. And so that would result in a mixed bag of stuff. But now between Carry On and Black Doves, something new is happening. Basically, Netflix is not saying do what you want. Netflix is saying do something great. Do the best you can. Because here, Black Doves is created by Joe Barton, who the last thing he did for Netflix was The Union. It was a Mark Wahlberg, who is Catwoman? Again, I'm blanking on this. This is why
Shit.
The African American black woman.
Oh shit!
I
don't remember. You're talking from the Batman.
She's also incredibly beautiful and a wonderful actress, and she won an Oscar. And I'm sorry, people, I'm over 70. I'm not happy about this any more than you are.
Yeah.
But be that as it were, they were in The Union together, and The Union.
Zoe Kravitz.
Not Zoe Kravitz. No,
not that one.
The gorgeous
Halle Berry.
Yeah, Halle Berry.
Okay. You're going way back then.
Yeah.
I was thinking more recent.
Well, she was in The Union recently with Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
And now that I've seen Black Doves, I can see that Joe Barton probably did the same thing in The Union for them, but what they did was because they were big stars and powerful, is that they got to have their way with this stuff. And Mark Wahlberg turned into a Mark Wahlberg thing. And so that's why everything was just a joke. Here, he was smart. He got 2 British actors. The Brits do not have a star system. They have an acting system. Everybody who learns acting or becomes an actor in Britain or becomes a star in Britain is doing it because they want to be a great actor, not because they want to be a star. Mark Wahlberg wants to be a star. The Rock wants to be a star. He's going to do it. And also Johnny Depp wants to be a star. He wanted to be an actor originally. Now he wants to be a star. because what they want is something that most actors don't have, or stars. No, stars have them, actors don't, which is power. When they go on the set, in being an actor, you're rejected all the time. You're constantly being rejected by everybody. So finally, when you get some power, a lot of them who go into acting because they're insecure anyway, and they don't want to be themselves, they want to be other people. When they get power, they go crazy. They go power mad. And that's what happened with the Union. But here, Black Doves, he has professional actors who are not interested in showing, throwing their weight around. They're interested in doing the job as best as they can. So this thing, the action is not in the action is in the words. And the interaction of these wonderful British actors. Every single scene, I'm just going, so good.
So it's more about the how meticulous they are, as opposed to
No.
fighting and all that.
Well, no, there's still a lot of action and there's still a lot of violence. It's all directed at that, but there's violence in other words, I recently posted on Facebook. I was contacted by a French writer who is writing 2 books on martial art movies for the French, for France, the French speakers. That comes out next year. So he asked me 8 questions, and I gave him 8 answers. And because he's going to be translating it all into French, I posted on my Facebook page all the questions and all the answers in English. And I talk about the difference because one of his questions was about choreography. And I went through the history of American action choreography. And we got to a point which we're still stuck in, which is the style of the action I call empty movement. And also right now, the style of the action is physiology-free video game action, where, John Wick and the Fast and the Furious guys don't get hurt, no matter what terrible stuff happens to them repeatedly. They do not get hurt. That's video game physiology-free. But empty movement is when there's just a lot of action, but it has no support. And again, as I went on with that answer, I was talking about what you need to make a good action scene. And I think I've said this on the show before, which is if the action scene can be taken out of the movie without affecting the movie in any way, other than just wasting time, it's not a good action scene. It's just a regular empty movement action scene. It exists to waste time or fill time. That's not a good scene. In the Union, it filled time and it wasted time. Here, because you've got actors and they're not, they're doing everything themselves. They're doing it in the characters they have meticulously created for you. The action is supported. It could have had the same choreographer and I talk about choreographers in those questions and answers too. And he said, he asked, who do you think is the best choreographer today? I said, they all are. The problem is they're not given power. They're all being controlled by the director, the studio, and the producers. Because I said, if you can check Kenji Tanagaki's work in, what was the recent great movie he did? Rurouni Kenshin, which is also on Netflix. And then you see the same choreographer's work on the latest G.I. Joe movie. It's like 2 different choreographers. That's because one of them was sabotaged in the editing room. The producer said, cut out the ends of the actions. So again, all choreographers are good. It's just that they're not always allowed to be good. So in Black Doves, they're allowed. And the actors are great. And every scene is like, this is really good. And I also like the fact that I saw the other reviews. The difference, because of my background, I like to find out why something's good. I like to, because whenever I used to interview people when they came out of a movie theater, I'd say, did you like it? They said, yeah. And I said, why? And they'd go, "Oh, it had guns. It had guns. It had guns in it. I liked it because it had guns in it. Oh, it had girls in it. That's not why. That's never why." So
Yeah.
Black Doves is full of whys. Really good. Study it. Study it. Anyway, also the fight coordinator. This is his first, I believe, full fight coordinating film. I believe it was Rob Cooper, and he. Oh no, it's not his. He was stuntman on Skyfall and Jason Bourne, but he also was a fight coordinator for Heart of Stone, and he's also the fight coordinator on Silo. It was clear that Heart of Stone, he was not free to do what he wanted, but Black Doves, I think he was, and it's very entertaining. Very entertaining. I may actually see it again, and I don't have time to see things again. There's too many entertainments out there. All right, so yay, Netflix. Good job this month. Yay. Now let's go back to the movie theaters. But don't go to this next one. Wait for it to come on Disney Plus. It'll come on Disney Plus, and it is. You got to put, there we go. Now, I should have known. I thought that, when I saw the people who were doing it, the director is awesome. Lin-Manuel Miranda did the music. I figured it was great. And then I watched it and I went, yep. I understand you, Disney. You're doing a lot of sequels now because, Bob Chapek screwed the pooch and Bob Iger's trying to get rid of the pooch. So I understand why you're doing sequels and shit, but your timing was bad with this one. Your last couple of sequels have worked perfectly. Inside Out 2, Baboom. And Mufasa makes perfect sense, but you had a problem. And the problem is you were coming out on the same day as, put up the next poster. Yeah. And I've heard some people say, because then again, as you know, with the internet and everything else, you can say, some people say, and then put blank. You can put anything in the blank, and somebody on the internet will have said it.
Yeah.
So because that's just the nature of social media. Whatever you want to say. But anyway, people were saying about Sonic, or whether they weren't saying. I've forgotten my point. Let me get back to the main point, which was Mufasa had no reason to exist because it is a prequel and it's establishing a problem we already know the solution of. Sadly, the music, and also try even Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm sorry, Lin, you have proven you are not better than Elton John. Elton John did the music for the original Lion King. Nobody's beating that. And you didn't beat it. Matter of fact, all you did was sort of vaguely copy it. So ultimately, I believe, had this movie been released at a softer time, not at Christmas, in the spring, it might have done better. But when you're up against Sonic, because one has no energy at all, because there's no point for it to really exist, and the other, and also another interesting mistake is that I heard a lot of people talking about the original CGI Lion King, where they did the same sort of thing. They weren't happy with it. Why did they have to do it? The animation was good enough. But it looked like actual CGI or lions. In this one, it's a weird combination of CGI and animation.
Yeah.
And all their faces have more expression. And they're doing things lions don't do. In the original, in quotes, live action animated Lion King, they acted like lions. They looked like lions. And here they look like animated live action lions. And it's kind of weird. It's not the uncanny valley, but it is we have to be able to do another pun with valley. There has to be some, Valley of the Dolls. That's what this was. This was Valley of the Dolls. It's very weird. And of course, they had no way of knowing that, I'm so happy about this. So many sequels are better than the original. Usually what would happen is the original would be great, the sequel would be okay, the third one would be terrible. But now all these series, the movies get better each time. And Sonic 3, it's my favorite Sonic movie. because they've gotten into, and they've gotten everybody in it. And also, I'll see anything with Jim Carrey in it because he never phones it in. And here he's playing a double role. And for a couple of seconds, I was going, where did they find that old actor who looked like Jim Carrey? And I went, oh, that is Jim Carrey. And it's just kind of like, and he does a distinct, he's not going to get nominated for an Oscar, but I really think he should. Because he makes those two characters completely separate and also in character. One is old, one is young. He does them. And he also, no one, I mean, even Jerry Lewis, for years I thought Jim Carrey was the new Jerry Lewis. No, he's way beyond Jerry Lewis now. What he does is kung fu acting. It's just amazing what he's, and you compare him to the other comic actors in the movie. No comparison. Although everybody else is fine. But there ain't Jim Carrey. Yeah, baby. He's the Bruce Lee of comedians, man. And so, but also the animation is great. And they're borrowing for so many years because there were so many executives and so many producers who wanted to have power over the fans. They met people, they find an audience who loves something and they say, well, we're going to rub their faces in it. We're going to make something that's good enough for garbage because, you know, we want to have power over you. And then finally somebody sort of went, no, I'm going to, because all these producers would also say, oh, fan service, that sucks. You're just doing fan service. But now there are all these producers and directors who are going, let's do really good fan service. And so, again, here we go again. Sonic 3 is the most connected to the Sonic games. So if you play Sonic games, because most of the time you can go to other movies and they're going, this is nothing like the game. This is nothing like the book. This is nothing like the TV show. Now they know, again, what James Gunn is doing. Now what they did with Sonic 3. It's an exhilarating movie. And it's little wonder the audience is always right. When I saw the box office returns for the first week of Sonic 3 versus the first week of Mufasa, I know which one was great. And it was. No question. I'm going to see that again, too. And speaking of the other thing now, Lord of the Rings, the whatever of whatever, the W of R, the War of the Rohirrim. Now, when I saw this, I sort of went, okay. I mean, Kenji Kamiyama does Ghost in the Shell, but mostly he does Ghost in the Shell TV series. And so this is kind of like a glorified TV series movie. And, you know, when anime is great, anime is amazing. Anime is astonishing. But when it's sort of a TV show, it's fine. I mean, they don't, I mean, since the Japanese don't have the same kind of ego issue that Americans have, they'll always try to do something honorable. That's the nature of the whole Japanese personality is involved with honor. So that he did an honorable job, but it's not exceptional. And it's okay. It's a good user. It's not a waste of time, but it's not a celebration of time. And then I found out, at least I heard, again, social media, thank you, but this made sense to me. Apparently, it was done mainly to hold on to the rights. They needed to make a movie to hold on to the film rights. I said, well, all right, that makes perfect sense. And at least, because Peter Jackson was producing it, he had a professional anime guy do it. He didn't get the greatest professional anime guy to do it, but he got an animated guy to do it who would do better than just anybody. So it's okay. Yeah. And if you really love Lord of the Rings, take a look. Now, get out of the theaters. Now we're going to Hi-Yah. We're going to Hi-Yah. We're going to Hi-Yah. Welcome USA. Yeah.
You wanted to skip this one?
Oh, I forgot that one. I didn't write it. Yeah, as a matter of fact. Oh, yeah. I forgot to write it down. All right, let's go
He didn't
back.
forget. He didn't forget. He didn't want to talk about this one.
No, I definitely want to talk about this. Because people were complaining when I was having discussions with people who were going, oh, we hate going to these movies and when we hate them. I go, I love it when I have a movie this bad because I'm able to solve it. And again, I already sort of set up the solving, which is Kraven along with Madam Web. Madam Web was clearly purposely sabotaged. that whole dubbing job they did. Not only did they do a dubbing job, but they did a terrible dubbing job where you
I didn't know
couldn't.
they did a dubbing job. That's terrible.
Well, not in Kraven, but in Madam Web.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't even realize they did that. That's insane.
Oh yeah, that famous line of the guy in the jungle, saying about whatever. But yeah, you could see that the lips didn't match up at all. It looked like a bad Godzilla movie. It looked like a
Oh,
bad kung fu movie. And I was going, they're purposely sabotaging this stuff just because that's how they get their rocks off. We are jealous and angry at Marvel for doing so well. So we're going to sabotage our own movies just on the off chance that we could denigrate Marvel. That's the word. That's the magic word, guys. Denigrate. Not so much sabotage. They're sabotaging themselves. It's like taking fist and pounding themselves in the fist. But Rob Reiner said this many years ago. Any entertainment, even entertainments that are considered a failure, make so much money that it's irrelevant to these bad producers. So they just have fun. And so here we got they could have made a great Kraven. They could have made a good Madam Web. They could have
I
made
actually
whatever.
love the idea of the character of Kraven. Like, I did enjoy that film a little bit. I do see a lot of the problems with it, but it's like, I kind of know where you're going at, because like they had a really good character they could have did a really cool thing with, and they just lost their way with it.
And you could tell that the choreographer wanted to do a good job too. So they had to ruin that in the editing room as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their purpose. If they had come on screen and held up a sign saying "fuck you," they couldn't have made it more clear.
Yeah.
That they were doing this simply to look at Marvel and go, "What are you going to do about it? We're making these movies just to hold on to it, and we're purposely not doing them well. We're purposely not even doing them good." And so it's kind of like, hooray for Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywood. But yeah, it proves my point. And because people, my buddy, blanking on his name too, he would say, because he works out in Hollywood as well, and he sort of goes, no, it's just that they're ignorant of the subject. I mean, nobody goes into these movies wanting them to be bad. I'm going, oh, you naive little fellow, you stop that. Cut it out. Yeah, they do that for that reason. So we talked about Kraven, poor Kraven. And also, since they're having problems with remounting James Bond, the star of Kraven was supposed to be in the running for the James Bond role. But now the rumors, the social media stuff is saying this movie may have killed his chances. And I'm going,
God.
You don't have to worry about it, man.
I actually thought he, I haven't really looked at him as James Bond, but he was pretty good in Bullet Train. Like, I didn't even recognize him. He was acting so well in that one. So it's like,
yeah, they open. I mean, what a producer could do in an editing room is shameful. And if you know anything about how that works, you'll be able to next time you go to a bad movie, you'll be able to figure out, okay, what happened. But now, again, let's get out of there. and on to Welco USA and Hi-Yah, which had a really good month. And it's going to have a really great month next month. I'm even going to talk about some of the stuff that's coming out in January. It's because I'm so excited. But last month was 100 yards. And again, I just want to keep seeing. I just want each clip of every. I want to put because the fights are all in 100 yards, as I mentioned last month, are all very short. So I want to take all the fight scenes and put them in one reel, and just keep watching that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because each time I see something different already. I've already done it 3 times, but I see something different, and I'll always, because that's what real kung fu is. Real kung fu, you just keep learning. So we're setting up The Prosecutor. The Prosecutor comes out in, I think, theaters next month. Donnie Yen may have written it, but he's certainly directing it and starring it and choreographing it. And I'm hoping, but then again, you can see by his fist, he's continuing on. He wants to be Bruce Lee. His mom is I met his mom before I met him, because I wrote really nice things about Donnie in Inside Kung Fu magazine when I was their entertainment editor. And so his mom got in touch with me, and she's one of the best Tai Chi teachers in Boston. And she said, come on, I want to buy you dinner. Come to Boston and I'll
Oh,
buy you dinner.
how
And so,
nice.
yeah, it was very nice. And then I found out that, of course, that Donnie's sister, Donnie's mother, they all know Tai Chi. And Donnie doesn't do any of that. He does all punchy, 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 and kicky, 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 kicky. He wants, he idolizes Bruce Lee. And I'm just waiting for the day. And he's already gotten on to such a point, and he's so talented that, I want him to get old enough where he will finally give in to Tai Chi and start doing Tai Chi. And boy, he'll be devastatingly powerful. I mean, if only he'll do a little, and we'll be getting into a little of that a little later on. But anyway, the prosecutor, and he's very proud of it. He's doing a lot of TikToks and Facebook posts. And so we're all, and Frank saw it. Frank Jiang, our buddy Frank Jiang, who will be on the best and worst or the best episode next week. He saw the prosecutor when he was in Hong Kong. He was in Hong Kong up until Christmas. And he sent out a Facebook post going, ah! So I went, yeah, okay, great. So look forward to the prosecutor. The next thing that they do, what do you have up next?
I have the 36
the
Chamber
36
Trilogy.
Yeah, I was gonna I sort of realized I could have saved that, and I should have saved that, because the interesting thing about Hi-Yah, they have superlative martial arts on the new stuff they're putting on this month on Hi-Yah. They have superlative martial arts, but it's not all one martial art. 36 Chambers, the Kung Fu. Let's come back to 36 Chamber Trilogy.
Okay.
The next thing is Striking Rescue, which is the return of Tony Jaa after like a dozen years or something. I mean, he did Ong Bak 1, he did Ong Bak 2, he did Ong Bak 3. I've talked to Tony several times, and he was a very, 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 very unhappy camper. I mean, he was really miserable. But then he went and got work in the Fast and Furious movies and other things, and he became much happier. And so it was fun that he went back now.
What,
And of
if I could pick your brain, what was it he was so upset about?
Thailand is not a happy country.
Right. Okay.
And the film industry, there's a reason that all the Ong Bak movies end the way they do. It's a reason that all the Thai martial art movies end the way they do. Because the idea of creating a happy ending in a Thai movie is kind of like everybody who's working on the movie is going, oh, that's not even possible.
So they're just trying to reflect what's going on in the country and all that.
It's kind of like this is not a happy place. And there's a reason that Thai boxing is Thai boxing. In other words, if you look at the martial arts, you can tell a country from its martial arts. You can tell what Japan is like from its martial arts. You can tell what China's like from its martial arts. You can also tell what China's like from the way the government keeps on burning down the Shaolin Temple, because they don't want kung fu. They want people to. They have too many billions of people. They don't want them. They want them to follow orders, not to think for themselves. And kung fu makes you think for yourself. But in any case, or if you're open to it, Muay Thai is probably the most violent martial art there is, and destructive and self-destructive. Karate is pretty destructive. A lot of my American friends who are my age, my martial art friends in America, I'm getting emails from them, and I'm getting texts and stuff from them, or whatever, and they're all going, "Oh, I'm really hurting here." And I'm always trying to say, "Well, let me tell you my qigong teacher. Let me find that, because that's regenerative. Martial arts is degenerative. That's just the way it is, and destructive." And so I look at Muay Thai, and also I'm glad that Tony Jaa was not in the Muay Thai business, because he's going to get hurt. There's no way he can do what he does on screen, because he's not getting in a stuntman. He's taking his elbow and he's putting it into somebody's skull. And he's taking his knee and he's putting it into somebody's chin. And as bad as it is for him, how do you think the guy who's getting the elbow and the knee is? I mean, this is degenerative and destructive stuff. But and this movie, of course, it's fascinating. It's directed by a Chinese. It's directed by Siu Cheng, who also directed The Tai Chi Master, which I reviewed twice this year. He also directed Tai Chi Master. But he's directing Tony Jaa in a Thai boxing movie. And I'm going, so the movie, of course, the plot is the same old plot of all the Thai movies, basically all martial art movies. His wife and child are killed, and he's taking revenge. because that's what we do. We take revenge, revenge movies. But he's doing it darn well. He's doing it damn well. And it's kind of like, nice to have you back, Tony. Don't do too many more of these. I like you too much, Tony, to do too many of these. I mean, talking to Tony, I talked to Tony during the production of Ong Bak 2. And what a sad, and he lied to me 3 times. I knew some of the answers to the questions I was asking him. He lied to me 3 times, but I understood completely why he did. And I certainly didn't call him on it. And the next time I talked to him was when he was working in America. And he was so happy. He was so happy. He was free. He was traveling around. And he didn't have to do crap. You know, he didn't have to hurt himself on the sets and all this stuff. And
yeah, I loved seeing him in Triple Threat. I thought that was a
Yeah.
nice little return there with that.
So I brought up the lies, and he just started laughing. And I'm saying, more power to you, buddy. But in any case, so yeah, that's worth seeing too. I think that may be on this week on Hi-Yah, but long awaited, the sequel to Eye for an Eye 2 has come out. Eye for an Eye 2, Blind Vengeance, and Hi-Yah's getting better at retitling, because the original title for this, I think, was something like Defiant or something, the original, whatever. But, Eye for an Eye 2, Blind Vengeance, good, because he is a blind swordsman. But what they did and of course, it's Zimao, who was the young actor in My Father is a Hero and New Legend of Shaolin. He was the little kid with Jet Li in those 2 movies. Now he's an adult, and he's awesome. And this is also directed by the director of the first Eye for an Eye. It's Yang Binglia. And I understand now what they're doing. These are streaming movies. These are streaming. You can always pretty much tell a really good streaming movie because it's more than 70 minutes. This is 90 minutes. So, and my God, from the very start of this movie, it's like, I've watched the first major fight 5 times. And the difference between this and the other fights that I was talking about, like 100 yards, is that these are Yang Binglia is using the camera as another kung fu weapon. Even though this is not nominally kung fu, it's made in China, but it's about Japanese characters. And he's got a Japanese sword, cane sword. He's not doing, Tai Chi swords or whatever. The other thing they do in this movie that I was like going, oh, this is so great. They combine Baby Cart with this.
Wow.
The plot of this is that the blind swordsman has to protect a little kid.
Nice.
Right out of the Daiguro. I mean, it was just like, it's a combination of, it's not Baby Cart, it's Lone Wolf. It's Lone Wolf and Zatoichi together, which I don't think they ever did. Zatoichi did fight the one-armed swordsman and the Sanjuro character, Toshiro Mifune, but he never fought Lone Wolf. But it's Lone Wolf without Lone Wolf. It's just Daiguro the kid and the cub. It's Zatoichi and the cub. That's what they should have called this.
The cub.
But the fight scenes are so well done. All you do-it-yourself filmmakers out there, if you want to learn how to film and edit a fight scene, watch this movie over and over and over and over again. That opening, I'm studying the rest of them now, and I'm pretty sure they fit with the first fight scene. But the first fight scene, there is not a wasted second. Every cut is perfectly chosen to communicate the fight scene. It's not empty movement. It's not physiology free. And it's in character. And the director is collaborating with the star, who knows what he's doing, to communicate not only what is happening, but how it's happening and why it's happening. And I'm just like, well, that for my mind was blown. And this is for a streaming service.
Yeah.
It's like, and so, and also I noticed that the two guys who are listed as the fight choreographers, the guys who did the fights, I believe these are their first ones. It's Du Xiaohui. It's his first job as an action director. And Qin Piangfei, who was a stuntman on the John Woo Red Cliff movies, and then became a director with this new movie, which all these other guys are in now, and I'm hoping Welgo gets that, which is called Fight Against Evil 2. So I'm gonna get in touch with Welgo and say, get Fight Against Evil and Fight Against Evil 2. So my gosh, it's so inspiring after so many years of the Chinese Film Bureau, not letting good kung fu come out, and I think they're getting away with it because, again, this is not nominally really kung fu. It's nominally samurai. It's nominally Japanese martial arts. And it's the same thing with Striking Rescue. It's a Chinese directing a Thai boxer.
Yeah.
So they're getting around the Chinese Film Bureau by using Thai and Japanese art to cover kung fu. And again, as I defined it in Films of Fury, my documentary, kung fu is translated to me as human achievement. So again, that's why I tell everybody when they say, what's the best martial art? I'm going, they're all the same. The human body, the human mind, the world around them. And these movies are proving that. Whatever martial arts you use, you can do it to its optimum. And these things are so awesomely great. Oh, yeah. We're going to have a good Kung Fu extravaganza this year at the San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to have a very good one. And I'm just going to be sitting there going, I'm going to be getting clips from 100 Yards and The Prosecutor and Striking Rescue and Eye for an Eye 2 and Eye for an Eye 1 and maybe from Fight Against Evil as well, and just showing them over and over and over again. We're just going, okay, we got a half hour. And we got a 90-minute show. We got a half hour of clips. We're just going to keep showing them. And see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? No, you didn't see that because you don't know Kung Fu. I'll give you some teachers.
Watch it in instant replay.
That's right. Oh, see what they did there? See what they did there? No, of course you didn't because you don't understand it. Now let's go back. Because if you want to understand, because here's the deal. The 36th Chamber Trilogy, 36th Chamber of Shaolin, Return to the 36th Chamber, Disciples of the 36th Chamber. These were made by the best Kung Fu filmmaker of all time, Lau Kar-Yong. And they were talking about basically the creation of elevated Kung Fu. And I saw these movies back when they originally came out, from like 1978 to whatever, 1985 or whatever they came out. Because I know Disciples is the story of Feng Sayuk. But in any case, I saw them then. And it was like, these are great. These are really cool. Hey. But then I spent how many years? From 1978 to 2001, I spent trying to find Kung Fu. And nobody was selling it. I mean, they were saying they were selling Kung Fu because everybody wanted to be like Bruce Lee. What happened in 1973, all these students came into their dojos, and not Kung Fu studios, dojos. And they didn't want a karate. They didn't want judo. They didn't want taekwondo.
They want Bruce Lee.
They wanted Bruce Lee. And so these teachers, I think more than a few, in fact, there might have been many, because when I see the state of martial arts in America at this point, it's still like 75-25. It's just like Hollywood. It's like, we'll teach you Kung Fu. And I'm standing there going, that's not Kung Fu. You can tell me that's Kung Fu, but the moment you make a fist, no, it's not Kung Fu. Oh yeah, it's called the fist of the. Yeah, you don't understand what that means, do you? Really?
Yeah.
You heard the word fist and you figured it was this. It's not this. But be that as it may. In any case, so finally in 2001, Inside Kung Fu sends me to Taiwan. Taiwan doesn't have the Chinese government. The same Chinese government, they have the Taiwanese Chinese government, and they don't feel the need to burn down the Shaolin Temple. They don't mind people teaching, in quotes, real Kung Fu, which is the mind opening. The whole idea of real Kung Fu is open hand, open mind, open heart. Those three things make you more powerful than muscles and fists ever could. But be that as it may. So finally, I found Tai Chi. I find all the Kung Fu teachers. Because again, they also understood that all the different styles of Kung Fu are there to make money. You know, you come to my style because my style is the best. My style is the best. My style is the best. Whatever. They're all the same. But in Taiwan, they're all teaching how to be powerful and healthy, how to be powerful through being healthy. And also, so I finally, and what was great is in the Taiwan Tourism Bureau had a tour for me and other martial art writers around the world. They got them from Germany, they got them from all over the place. They took us all, and for 2 weeks, they introduced us to every Kung Fu teacher on the island. Because Taiwan is 6 hours from top to bottom, 3 hours from side to side. So we were on buses and planes going to every single one, and they all were putting on a show, because they all knew that we were journalists of the forum. So I found two teachers who taught me more in 20 minutes than I had learned in the past 20 years. 20 minutes. And so I started learning Kung Fu. And they were able, and the great thing about knowing a real Kung Fu teacher is they'll introduce you to other real Kung Fu teachers. And it turns out there were a bunch. I went to the Tai Chi championships in Taipei during that visit. And there was this white guy across the world heavyweight Tai Chi push hands champion across the gym from me. And everyone in the auditorium was lined up to do push hands with him, which was a certain kind of style. So I came over to him and I said, "Hey, you're a English speaker." And he said, "Yes, I'm an English speaker." And I said, "Hey, do you live in America?" He goes, "Yeah, I live in America." I go, "I live in America." And I say, "Well, I live in Connecticut." He goes, "I live in Connecticut." He lives 40 minutes away from me by car.
That's crazy.
And so he would introduce me to other great white real Kung Fu teachers. And so from 2001, when I was first sent there, to now, I have been learning Kung Fu and also, of course, developing my own style, because I listened to what Bruce Lee said, like Jackie Chan did.
Yep.
Learn everything you can from everyone and everything you can, then make it your own. So I've made it my own, my style. Okay, yay me. However, what I also found out, to my delight, is that when I went back and watched the 36 Chamber Trilogy, I saw so much more than I did the first 80 times. Because now I know Kung Fu. And it's like, oh, it's not just pretty movements. I see what they're doing there. So again, seeing this again, and they have beautiful prints. They have the celestial picture prints. It's subtitled, it's widescreen. Because when I was growing up, all my friends were seeing the dubbed, pan and scan, scratchy prints, while I was down in Chinatown seeing the widescreen, subtitled, uncut ones. And so seeing them again on Hi-Yah is like, so I strongly recommend that all of you first, take advantage of our special free trial membership to Hi-Yah. Watch 36 Chamber, watch Eye for an Eye 1 and 2, watch The Swordsman, which was the Korean version of The Blind Swordsman, and yeba. All right, finally I'm done. Oh, I'm 5 minutes over. Usually I go.
You're good.
Yeah, okay.
You got anything coming up that you're doing, or is it just pretty much just chilling for the holidays?
Well, I did. No. I've got plenty to do. I've got more graphic novels to write for my Spanish publisher, and she's still waiting for them. And I'm just like, because I did the whole Santa thing, I was able to have good excuses for her. I'm also supposed to do my first audiobook.
That's right. You were talking about this.
Yeah, that's right. So we're still waiting for that to set up. And I think there might have been something else, but again, I'm old. I'm so entertained by my own brain nowadays.
It's all good.
Because I'm always going, what was I supposed to do? And my brain would start laughing, and I would go, come on, tell me. No, he says,
Yeah, I do it all the time.
yeah,
All the
and it's like, but thankfully so far, I'm waiting for the day when it doesn't happen. But so far, finally, my brain goes, here it is. I'm going, oh yeah, of course. I was supposed to do laundry for the last 3 days, and I finally did it today. And I was just going, how can I forget that? I go up to bed last night. I don't have any more pillowcases. I'm going, I'm supposed to do laundry.
Here's your reminder.
I was tempted to go down. It was 11:30 at night, but I have neighbors. I didn't want to disturb my neighbors. So, have fun,
As for
everybody.
me, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, I will be joining Kevin Lambert at the Entertainment Headquarters. We will be reviewing the movie I Come in Peace, or now known as Dark Angel, with Dolph Lundgren. Then on Saturday, I will be joined by another Kaiju fellow fan to do the Kaiju Spotlight series that I've been doing. This time we're doing Megalon. So that's basically what I've got coming up initially. But Rick, thank you for again joining me. Go ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to join you. And also, let's see if we can arrange a special appearance during the best and worst of the year next week with that fat samurai guy.
I would love it. And I know Samurai has talked about maybe when he gets back to doing this with you, just maybe have me join you a couple times, because I love listening to your insights and your reviews and stuff. So it's always good to get that in there, and people should be paying more attention to that.
No, people should do whatever they want. I'm just happy that I'm able to talk to you and Fat and Frank and other people and say my little silly stuff. But
that's what makes it fun. Even during the verses, like I miss those days when we can just get Kung Fu Santa in the middle, like Jeopardy.
That's right.
Go to the verses.
You're all wrong.
You're right. You're wrong, and this is why.
I'm not necessarily right, but this is why I think you're wrong.
Right. But always remember, folks. Always remember.
You want a piece of me?
You want a piece of me?
You want a piece of me?
Oh, you want a piece of me?
You want a piece of me?
You want a piece of me?
You got it! Get a piece of Rick.
That's where the Kurt Swan drawing of Superman went. Check to see if it's still there.
I was getting ready to say, every time I see that Tiffany Taylor poster, I'm like, you could just send that to me for Christmas. Santa could look out for me, like, right?
Well, absolutely. I'll see if I have an extra, because I was at the Playboy Mansion a couple of times, but also we would always talk at San Diego Comic-Con. So I had a bunch of stuff signed by her. Let me check to see if I have any left.
Oh, that'd be great, dude. I'd love one of those.
Yeah, because
I do remember when she first came out to the the Playboy and everything. I thought she was gorgeous, just stunning.
Yeah, and she was really cool. All right, kids.
All righty. Well, thank you all. Please hit and like and subscribe. You can get this both on my channel and then also on Samurai's when I notify him, and he'll put it up on his channel as well. Please check this out and listen to this man. He knows what he's talking about. But we'll see you next time here on the Metal Time Radio Podcast. And this is the Action Film Autopsy, episode 33.